thought to himself, I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. Wouldn't it be nice if we at Christ Church Cathedral could say the same? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just relax, just for a moment, and sit comfortably with all our desires met? We could do away with all the meetings about figuring out a budget. We could use our time instead spending money to fix the building and hire new clergy, rather than passing many hours in a solemn conversation as we figure out ways to save what little we do have. It seems almost ironic, in light of the crossroads we are facing, to have to reflect on the parable of the rich man. For if anything, Christ Church Cathedral's congregation is the exact opposite. Our storage barns are rapidly approaching empty, and yet I've seen time and time again how the people of this congregation are rich towards God by bending over backwards to love and serve one another and our community. From the congregants who come in throughout the week to serve the needs of this community, both within and outside our walls, to our security guards, Curtis and Darren, who go above and beyond their call of duty, keeping our church open throughout the week as a cool space for people to come and rest in, even when it means they have to pick up trash and deal with all sorts of behavior. From all this, I have constantly been amazed by how rich this congregation is towards God. Likewise, the Old Testament passage today seems to speak to an entirely different audience. God says that for people, the more I called them, the more they went from me. They kept sacrificing to the Baals and offering incense to idols. Truly, if there were a community I've seen since my relatively recent conversion to Christianity to absolutely devote itself to love and service towards God and neighbor, and to avoid the false idols of profit and security, it has been the congregation of Christ Church Cathedral. But even though a major theme in today's reading is the perils of material wealth and seeking only one's own security, there is more to today's message. In Paul's epistle to the Colossians, we get a whole range of vices we are to avoid. In addition to fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, Paul admonishes the Colossians to get rid of anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from their mouths. It's almost a little off-putting to read, because in this snippet it sounds almost as if Paul expects to transform people's hearts simply by naming what's wrong in them. Anybody who has worked interpersonally with other people before, and that means all of us, should know that it takes a whole lot more to inspire people to take control of their passions and change their ways. For you see, our hearts are such fickle things. Something happens to us and they can change in the blink of an eye, from feelings of soaring joy to sickening anguish. Taking control of our hearts, as Paul would have us do, is an incredibly difficult task. Sometimes it just feels like we have to let things out before we can move on, like we might just burst if we try to plug it up and avoid expressing our anger. This past Saturday, as I stood and watched my first drag show over on Cherokee Street, I got to witness the expression of such passionate pain and rage in another person's heart. This show wasn't your typical drag show. According to the queen who emceed the show, this was post-drag, meaning that she and the other queens had gotten over performing top 40s pop and acting out artificially high-spirited and glitzy lip-syncing roles. Instead, this was to be a sad drag show, allowing the expression of a side they wouldn't have otherwise been able to show on stage. And the last song, a song I had never heard before, riveted me as I silently took on this wave of what can only be described as bitter rage Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I am. How quick it can switch. Hide in your little bar where you're the king of free drink tickets. Impressive what you can do with a little bit of power. Sweet little power. Another free drink for you. If you've ever heard the song Free Drink Tickets by Peaches, then you'll know that the language gets a whole lot more explicit and profane from there. But everyone else there at the drag show seemed to be loving it. Standing in the audience, I felt a little bit out of place as I watched the insults hurled at the person who had betrayed and abandoned the singer continue to darken in shade and tone. Meanwhile, the crowd responded increasingly loudly with whistles and shouts, raising or clapping their hands and shouting, "Yes!" In that moment, I felt like this was one of the most Christ-like songs I had ever heard. Where was the redeeming side to this view of toxic negativity coming out of her mouth? What good did it do to shout these expletives and to have people cheer you on the more creative and vengeful your lyrics became? It didn't seem at all in line with Paul's injunction to get rid of wrath, slander, and abusive language from our mouths. I knew I was being judgmental, but I couldn't shake that feeling that something was wrong with what was going on in front of me. That was when I remembered that this song was not about being angry. It was about being sad. Sad after just feeling betrayed by losing their lover, their companion, their guide, friend, spiritual leader, and caregiver. This person had had an intimate relationship with someone that they thought would last forever. And just as we all do, they had come to form their identity based upon that relationship. They had let who they were, what their community was, where they felt at home, and who they turned to in times of need, all be defined in terms of that person and their relationship. They allowed all this to build up, only to have their heart crushed in the blink of an eye. When that person who had meant so much to them announced they were leaving. And then, that was when I got it. The song wasn't about being Christ-like. It was about being real. Because pain is something real that we experience whenever we lose something we care deeply about. As a congregation here at Christ Church Cathedral well knows. When people announce their departure, whether a loved one or a priest, those left behind must learn to cope with the pain of absence, which manifests itself in feelings of anger, frustration, and betrayal. The pain we feel is so natural, so understandable, and relatable. So why then does Paul tell us to get rid of our anger? When our passions are tearing at us and feel hurt and afraid, doesn't Paul's demand for us to put all these things aside seem like an impossibly difficult task? We have all these other things going on in our lives that need our attention. Couldn't God just give us a break on this one? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just relax, just for a moment, and allow ourselves to feel what we're going through when we're in pain? There are always going to be times when we feel as if things would be so much easier if that pesky Jesus did not demand so much of us. But in today's gospel reading, we are reminded that Jesus accepts stopping at nothing less than constant attention towards God. For you see, although many would see today's parable to be a story about greed and wealth, in my reading of today's gospel, I found the message of Jesus to also be about sloth. I'm not talking about the cute, furry South American tree-loving animals that you can watch videos of on YouTube. I'm talking about that lesser known of the 7 deadly sins called sloth, or spiritual laziness. For it is not because he built bigger barns that God calls the rich man a fool, but rather because he let that distract him from doing the more important spiritual work to keep his relationship with God in right order. The rich man may have worked very hard to become rich, but that does not matter. For in focusing his efforts so entirely on material wealth, caused by a certain lack of trust in God. It is an aversion to spiritual effort which leads to the neglect of grace. And its worst effect is to make us put off our return to God after sin. Whether it is because we have amassed wealth in search of our own security, or because we have been angry and just want to be proven right, sloth is when we refrain from doing the spiritual work necessary to get us back to loving relationship with God. It is when we refuse to open ourselves to God's love and mercy, and would rather hold on to our current state of mind. Sloth is what keeps us complacent and unwilling to do the work to access God's transforming love. We've all been there, and we all know that it hurts to recognize that we've been lazy towards God. But thank God, we know we also believe in a merciful God, a God who loves us and wants nothing more than to squeeze us in her tight embrace, even as she sees right through all the things we try to do to hide our laziness. Whether we look smugly upon all the wealth we've accumulated or point fingers in anger, God sees right through our pretenses and loves us anyway. In today's Old Testament reading, we hear Hosea's account of a loving and merciful God who puts aside her wrath at an angry, greedy people who have disobeyed her word. Even when her people are bent on turning away from her, she allows her compassion to grow warm and tender. The miracle is that this loving God is also the same one who sets such high, even impossible standards for us to strive after. Somehow, our God both demands of us perfection in our spiritual diligence and understands that we are bound to fall short in our laziness and miss the mark of constant striving. Yet she never gives up in asking us to be better. In times of trouble and in times of plenty, we are always called as followers of Jesus to do more. Since my time at Christ Church Cathedral began almost 1 year ago, I have seen you all do so much, both within and beyond what one might define as the boundaries of this community. And I have great faith that you will continue to do so much more in Christ's name. I look forward to coming back and visiting this place that has felt so much like a great spiritual home for me, and to be able to take what I've learned here and continue the difficult yet joyful work of following Jesus somewhere else. You've taught me so much about what it means to be rich towards God, and I am so grateful. And I am so confident and excited that you will continue to model the way of spiritual wealth for years to come.